Welcome to Tiny Marketing. This is Sarah Noel Block, and this is the podcast that helps B2B service businesses do more with less. Learn lean, actionable, organic marketing strategies you can implement today. No fluff, just powerful growth tactics that work. Ready to scale smarter? Hit that subscribe button and start growing your business with Tiny Marketing. Hey! Welcome to episode 106. This is Tiny Marketing, and I am Sarah Noel Block. Today, we are going to talk about how to not sound like a robot when you are using ChatGPT. I have expert guest Naomi Soman, and she is the copywriter at SimilarWeb and does an amazing job of crafting prompts that sound superhuman. She is sharing so many hacks that I have most definitely started implementing since this episode was recorded. If you're watching this on YouTube, you'll notice right now I am wearing a Halloween sweater, my little skeleton torso on here. And in the interview, you'll see I'm like sweating and I'm wearing a little sundress. So this was definitely, the interview was filmed in the summer and now it's October and I'm filming the intro. But yeah, so you can see there's a huge difference. So I have had months to actually implement the things that she taught me in this episode. And I can tell you firsthand, they're freaking amazing. You're going to love this. She shared a lot of, I've gotten pretty good with ChatGPT over the past couple of months, but she shared things that I had no idea about. You'll want to steal these. So get ready, get set. Grab a notebook, grab a pen, grab your phone and open up your Apple Notes and stay tuned as we talk to Naomi about how to craft these picture perfect ChatGPT prompts that you'll want to. SaaS and B2B marketers, here's something to think about. 79% of users will leave your site within seconds because of a bad user experience. That's a lot of lost leads. But Mouseflow can help you fix that. With Mouseflow, you can track where leads are getting stuck on your site, be it abandoned forms, confusing navigation, or even broken links in key areas like your sign-up page or demo request form. With Mouseflow's heat maps and session recordings, you'll easily understand the why behind the drop-offs and optimize those user journeys to drive more meaningful conversions. Visit go.mouseflow.com/try and sign up to get a full-feature 14-day extended trial. No credit card required. Hello. Thank you for joining me today. Could you introduce yourself to the audience?
Of course. My name is Naomi Soman, and I am a copywriter at SimilarWeb.
Sweet. And today we're talking about what literally everybody is talking about, and that's how to not sound like a robot when you're using ChatGPT. I I have only ever used ChatGPT to disseminate transcripts. And that's where my go-to is. But so many people use it for copywriting and blog writing. And I have never had that skill of being able to train it to sound just like me. I've gotten a little bit better at it, but you are an expert at it. And I'd love to get into that. So, what is your first piece of advice to set up your original blank chat for success?
So I would say it's all in the prompt, all in the priming. You really have to figure out the right prompt because the editing process is a little bit rough. You want to figure out what are the input in order to tell ChatGPT exactly what to do. And I have a couple of different tactics depending on what you're writing.
Okay. So I'm going to tell you the only thing that I know that works, and then you give me the others. So the only thing that I have done that I've gotten success from is loading in content that I've already created that I loved and engaged well. And I just tell it to learn this, learn the way I write and explain it to me, and then start creating content based off of what you learned from my previous content. What do you do to get that?
Yeah, that's definitely a great step. I would say just as a caveat, it's better the more content that you have. Otherwise, ChatGPT tends to mimic it exactly.
Mm,
Um, so what I like to do is I will take like lots of blog posts or web copy, ads, and plug it in and ask ChatGPT to create a style guide for me, because
mm,
then you save that style guide and reuse it at a later point. And then it'll get into, do you use metaphors or not? Do you use figurative language? Do you use like what vocabulary level? Things like that. And then you don't have to go through the same process every time. You already have it cut and paste into your
that's great. So you can do that and then just put it in like a Google Doc so you can just copy and paste it later?
Exactly, and then you can use that as an editorial style guide for other writers. If you hire a writer to write for you, or if you're working with different vendors, then you have that on hand.
I dig that. Okay. So let me go backwards a little bit, reversing in time. So you copy and paste or even just the links to a whole bunch of content. So it gets varied content and it can start to learn what your voice is. You have it create a style guide. And then you said it about, like, what elements do you include in your typical writing, like metaphors and whatnot. Now, do you prompt ChatGPT to ask you these questions, or what's the next step there?
No, it'll create a nice editorial style guide for you, and then you can say, use this editorial style guide to write this piece.
Okay, okay. I was talking to someone the other day who does a lot of engineering of ChatGPTs, and one thing that they mentioned was having ChatGPT interview you to be able to take it further, like, pretend like you're the world's greatest copywriter. What questions should you ask in order to understand my voice the best? Something like that, so you can get additional input that you might not have thought of before.
Yeah, that's tricky. It the problem is if you ask questions, sometimes like if you're not speaking candidly, then it won't be your authentic voice. So a lot of times what I prefer to do is I'll go to like a transcript. It depends on what kind of company you're writing for. If you're
Mhm.
writing for an individual versus a large company. But either way, sometimes if you have a call recorded, whether you are a salesperson at a company or you are writing for your own business, if you have your speech recorded either in a call or in an interview, taking that transcript and uploading it can sometimes be a lot more helpful, because it's a little bit more natural than if you were to just respond. Because if you're responding to specific questions, especially if you're writing, you may write in a way that sounds a little bit more formal or a little bit more humorous or a little bit different than how you sound naturally, and you do want your voice to sound like you candidly.
That makes so much sense. Yeah, so the recommended next step would be to upload transcripts of maybe sales calls you've had, webinars you've put on, podcasts that you've done like a solo episode on, because it is the natural way you speak and it'll be able to capture it better. It's probably more insightful than you trying to describe what you think your voice is because it might be completely different than what you realize.
Yeah, and then if you wanna take that a step further, what you can do is actually record it's oftentimes the same transcript, but you can take the voice of your customers, because if you're writing
Hmm.
to Bird, a lot of times you wanna use your personality, but you wanna take the words of your client.
Oh,
So
brilliant.
yeah, if they have, like, different names for things, I see this in a lot of companies that the company will call it one thing, but the clients have sort of a different name for it.
Yeah,
And
I
you can
see
take
that a
that
lot.
phrasing right from the call.
Yeah, that is really, really smart. So taking your sales calls and asking for ChatGPT to find the vernacular that your customers are using. I love that because that really like, there is a huge difference in the way we talk about the things and the way our customer does who isn't an expert in that thing, but that's what they're searching on Google.
Yeah. And so what I do for writing ads, because I write dozens and dozens of ads, is I have a swipe file of lots of different taglines that have worked for me in the past. And then I have some that I've taken from books or webinars or different influencers that I follow. And I'll ask ChatGPT to take the voice of the customers and then plug it in to these templates that I have. And so I can say, okay, come up with 50 headlines using this client testimonial or this client's transcript and these templates that I've provided you. And then I'll go in and say, okay, like versions 1, 3, 5, and 17. Come up with more like that. And so you can get 25 taglines or 25 headlines from ChatGPT very quickly using your ideas and the client virtual word. Super fast.
I love that. I love that. That makes it so much easier.
Yeah,
Oh,
because headlines are about quantity. You have to write a certain amount to get a couple of good ones. But why do that on your own?
right, right. The cheapest assistant ever. And I don't do anything with paid media. But what I've heard in podcasts is that you need to test a lot of different types of copy in order to figure out what works. And there's like a training process involved in paid media, which is not my world. So it makes sense though that you need to have so many different headlines to see what resonates because you're training it and you're figuring out what's working for a while.
Yeah, but this could also apply to like a YouTube title. Anything that you want to get people to click. Paid media just happens if you're running large campaigns, you're running a lot of ads. So you need a lot of those, but it could totally apply to like a YouTube title or um, if you are writing hooks for
Mhm.
organic social posts, that could also be relevant.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And so, one takeaway that I want everyone to take away from this is the swipe files that you like when you fall in love with a hook that you see somebody has, or like something of yours did really, really well. Just put it in a doc. I do this too. I'm obsessive with swipe files. Like, oh, but I've never used it with ChatGPT. I've never even thought to do that. So that's really, I'm going to do that next.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, it was a tip that somebody gave me years ago, and so I started building it. And it's like, why reinvent the wheel every time you have to sit down and write these? Like, you can use the what already works.
Yeah, really, really smart. Because I'm doing it and then I'm just writing all of the copy from my brain. But, I'm coming up with one version of it where ChatGPT would be like, here's 50 options for that, actually.
And then you can always go in and edit and like tweak it here and there to add a little bit of sparkle. It doesn't necessarily mean it's done. Like sometimes
Yeah.
ChatGPT doesn't know what it's talking about, so it'll throw weird combinations together. But it'll get your brain working. And so if the options aren't perfect, you at least have somewhere to start, and then
Mhm.
you can polish it from there.
Yeah, it's ideation, and then you can clean it up later, and you have so many more options. And something that I learned about recently is in the settings, you can block certain words or types of phrases that ChatGPT tends to gravitate towards. So,
Mm,
like setting up your ChatGPT from the settings standpoint to sound more like you would be helpful too.
yeah, 100%. So then my next tip is to use formulas. This is really helpful, especially if you're writing emails. This is my favorite email hack. Um, you can tell ChatGPT to use a copywriting formula. So something like problem agitation solution, which is a very well-known standard formula. It'll work in 99% of cases. You can even prime it. You can ask it what is problem agitation solution, and it'll give you a description. And then you can say, write an email, give it a brief, tell it what the email is about. Make sure to use problem agitation solution. And then you can tweak it a little bit, say, make sure to be very specific in the intro or use sensory details or whatever it is that you want to add to the original copy, but just telling it to use problem agitation solution will get you like 60 to 70% of the way there.
Yeah, that's really smart. So let's say you're selling a program and you want to come up with you have to send a lot of emails when you're doing that. And you need to come up with some ideas. You could essentially do exactly what you said and add like the sales page link so ChatGPT can read it and understand what the program is about and then pull relevant information in.
Mhm. Yeah, or you can also pull in some client calls or client testimonials, especially in the problem section, if you wanna get a great hook,
Mhm.
um, starting off with, "If you're still dealing with," and then insert an example that one of your customers actually mentioned to you. That could be a
Yeah.
great hook.
Yeah, that's really smart. So create like a really robust prompt on top of asking for the specific formula that includes like, these are the challenges that my clients are going through. This is what they're aware of. These are the problems that they don't yet realize are the actual problems. And you can give as much detail as you know that's available in your brain before it starts writing the emails, because then it can pull those details in where it might be a jumbled mess in your brain, but it'll be able to pull it into that formula for you.
Exactly. And you can even have it come up with these examples. Now, hopefully, you have enough examples if you have been working in this business a while. But sometimes I work with companies that um, either they don't have a lot of examples, or it's a very technical product, or it's hard for them to give me a lot of um, to give me a lot to work with. They have like the general pain points, but there's not a lot of meat there.
Yeah.
And so sometimes what I'll do is I will say, okay, walk me through the day in the life of this user. So for example, I was working with um, a tech company that offers an AI solution um, to healthcare groups, meaning they run the organization that physicians are a part of. So more of the admin side, which is a very niche market. And there's not a lot of information about these kinds of people. And so you can say, okay, walk me through the day in the life of this person and be very specific, give examples, give details. And then you can say, I mean, you want to make sure, verify that all of that information is accurate. And then you can say, okay, here's an example of somebody I'm working with or somebody I'm writing for. Um, write the email to them. And so it already plugs that into its brain, and you have those details even though you may not be have access to them, or you may not be able to interview these people, you may not be able to listen to sales calls from these people, whenever it may be, you still have that storytelling framework from which to work.
Yeah. So that's part of the priming part of ChatGPT is just having them. I always talk about ChatGPT like it's a person. Understand the lifestyle of the person that you're writing for before they start writing.
Yeah. So it still works even if you don't have transcripts, if you don't have calls, if you don't have a ton of information about what their day to day looked like.
Mhm.
Um, you can use ChatGPT to generate an example of what it may look like, and it does a pretty good job of it.
Okay. Okay. Are there any other tips that our listeners should know when they are like, I feel like this has been all about the priming and that's where the work is setting up your ChatGPT for success. Is there anything else that they should know before we talk about your swipe files that you have?
Yes. So my last tip is with case studies. If you're writing a case study, even if it's a sort of a short one embedded in like a blog or something, um, if you tell ChatGPT to act like a reporter
Mhm.
and you tell it to prioritize accuracy, um, then it will come up with very, very good case studies. Even you can even use these in like proposals and sales enablement materials. Um, super, super useful. Does it really quickly and gets it on the nose. And it'll like quote people almost like a reporter would in a for a newspaper.
So, how do you use this with your actual customer information? How do you like connect those 2 things?
Um, well, if you have transcript, if you interviewed a client, or if you have any sales calls, transcripts, you want to make sure that you delete any personally identifying information. That's really important. But beyond that, you can say, you can take this discovery call that I just had. Um, you're a reporter, write an article about this success story,
Okay,
and
I
it'll
love
spit it
that.
out for you.
This would be
Super.
really great for coaches, consultants, who are regularly having conversations with their customers and with prospects to be able to really speak to their future customers because like they're identifying exactly what pain they're going through, what transformation they want in those calls. I love that.
And coaches and consultants are so busy, they're so overwhelmed. Like, why not use this hack to get those
Yeah.
stories out there?
Yes, I love this hack. I'm gonna play with that like as soon as we hang up today.
Let me know how it goes.
I will. So you have ad swipe files that for our listeners today. Can you tell me about them?
Yeah, these are taglines that I have tested and tested and tested again, and they've worked for me over and over and again, over and over and over again. And when I say tested, I've worked in really large paid media companies. So we're talking like spending $1 million a month
That's a
on
test.
maybe one channel. Yeah, so
I
lots
can't
of
even
ads.
imagine that budget.
I know it's a little bit hard to process. But I found that these taglines work well for me. Then they are general enough that you can apply them to a bunch of different situations. So they are for ads, but you could easily use them in in subheads, like on a web page. They would work really well for that. Um, or if you're writing a description, you can sort of use pieces here and there. So I would be happy to share them.
Thank you. It was great having you. Can you share with everyone how they connect with you online?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn. My name is Naomi Soman, and I'd love to continue the conversation there.
And we will have her link in the link in the bio. Ha, this is a podcast. No. The link in the show notes description. And we'll also have the link to her swipe files in there too. So thank you.
Thanks so much for having me.
That was Naomi with the most delicious ChatGPT hacks I have ever heard of. So, as you know, I love to give you actionable steps anytime you listen to an episode. So, here is your action step that you should take. Go over to ChatGPT. I will wait here. You can pause this. And I want you to start crafting some custom prompts using the hacks that Naomi has showed you. And remember, she has swipe files. So download those in the show notes page. But I want you to start testing out how to use this. A couple of the things that I definitely want you to try is the email subject line hack. Yes, please do that. And I also want you to try the voice of customer hack. I think that is amazing. So, one thing that I want you to really pull away is as the expert in your field, you probably use the correct language for all of the things that you do, but your customer does not. So you want to use the language that your customer uses so they can identify with it. It's not dumbing it down, it's using their language and making sure that you have the correct search terms that they would be looking for. So always think from the perspective of the customer. That's where your copywriting should really be for your website, for your LinkedIn, for your emails. Always think from the perspective of the customer. And Naomi gave us some amazing ideas on how to do that even easier. Just, take the actual words from your customer. They're there in the sales files, in your sales calls transcripts. All right. If you enjoyed this episode, please, please, please share this with a friend. I adore you guys. And I so, so appreciate that you have to be sharing this with friends because it has grown so much in the past couple of months. There's no other explanation. I haven't gotten any wider of a reach than I had before, but you guys amplify this show, and I really appreciate you, and I love you, and you're the best. So please continue sharing with friends. Tell them about the Tiny Marketing Show. And if you want to be friends in real life, I spend my time on LinkedIn. So you can go there, and I'm just at Sarah Noel Block, my full name. And I'll see you on the flip side. Bye. You love all things tiny marketing, head down to the show notes page and sign up for the wait list to join the Tiny Marketing Club, where you get to work one-on-one with me with trainings, feedback, and pop-up coaching that will help you scale your marketing as a B2B service business. So I'll see you over in the club.